Okay, good evening. Please turn your microphones on. Those that are here and pull them forward. I'd like to call the November 8th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission to order. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme.
Present.
Mr. Screbutenis.
Here.
Mr. Khan. I noticed he might have just dropped off for a second. Mr. McPartland.
Here.
Mr. Darpino.
Here.
Mr. Oster.
Here.
Ms. Shenfield.
Here.
Ms. Gold.
Present.
Chairman Walsh.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Henry. Okay, we have two sets of minutes tonight for approval. First set being from the September 27th, 2021 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. Oster. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Darpino. Thank you. Corrections, changes? I have one, thanks to Mr. Henry. He's emailed me a comment. That would be, I think, line 31, somewhere right in there, and I'll give this to Ms. Robertson. He just wanted us to add, he picked up that that Mr. Darpino made a motion to accept those minutes, and Mr. Khan seconded that motion, and that was not included in the minutes, so we'll ask for that simple and change those minutes. Any other changes to the September 27th minutes at all? Okay. Hearing none, we'll see, just do a show of hands. All those in favor of approval of the September 27th, 2021 meetings as slightly modified, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, hearing or seeing no one opposed, we'll pass those minutes. Next set of minutes is from the October 18th, 2021 meeting. So I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Seconded by Mr. Oster. Corrections at all on the October 18th? Comments? Okay, hearing or seeing none, all those in favor of approval of the October 18th minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing or seeing no one opposed, this October 18th, 2021 meeting minutes are approved. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move right to privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters in the town of Niskayuna, if you're present here, you can come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. And if nobody here wants to speak, I don't see anybody here. So Laura, do you have any emails or anybody online that would like to speak?
So Karen, I think you said you just want to attend virtually. Is that correct? Or did you want to speak at privilege of the floor? Oh, I saw you unmute yourself. We didn't hear you. But I'll check my email. If there's something that you want to send, we can come back.
Okay, no communications at all, Laura?
No.
And is there one person online that may want to speak? We'll give it a second if there is.
Oops.
Okay. That's it? Okay. Hearing or seeing no one for privilege of the floor, then we'll close privilege of the floor. We have no unfinished business tonight. We have two items under new business, two resolutions. Just for information on the second resolution, I'm going to recuse myself due to an outside, sitting on an outside board with that applicant. And during that portion, Mr. Oster will be acting chairman and Ms. Gold will be sitting in on the board for the vote on the second resolution. So the first resolution tonight is resolution 2021-35, a resolution for site plan approval of a midterm internal remodel with new external signage for Taco Bell at 420 Balltown Road. And I'll just summarize. Resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission has determined that the proposed waivers for signage would have a minimum negative effect on aesthetics and is compatible with existing facades within the commercial shopping center and does hereby grant said waivers as outlined above. And be it further resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the proposed interior and exterior remodeling and the new signage on the property located at 420 Balltown Road, which is Taco Bell, as shown in the aforementioned documents in conjunction with said waivers, meets the requirements of the zoning code in previous site plans approvals, and therefore hereby approves this site plan. Can I have a motion for approval of the resolution?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and that was Mr. Scributinus, is that what that was? I'm sorry.
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Oster. Discussion. I guess, just for information, I'll just state that the waivers that are included, one is for an additional front facade sign, one's for a logo sign. It's basically all logo, so a 9.5 square foot variance or waiver is required for that. And there's an extra entranceway sign that protrudes from the building facade, so a waiver is required for that. And there's 3 directional signs that are 1.1 square foot larger than that's called for in the zoning ordinance, and there's a waiver for that. We'll also add that with all the new signage, it's actually a decrease of 17 square foot versus the existing signage. All right, any other discussion or comments regarding Taco Bell resolution?
And Chairman Walsh, I did want to add, there are some existing approvals for the larger signage, but this resolution is just taking the signage, this package
Okay,
with its waivers, but theoretically, some of the things could be squeezed into the other approvals, but we decided to be clean. Like, this is just a full
Okay.
list of what's out of order here, but some of it would be allowed.
okay, thank you. And again, I think most important things is reduction in signage, even over what they had previous waivers for. Any other discussion, comments? Okay, hearing none, Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributinus,
Aye.
Mr. Khan. I believe he said aye. Mr. McPartlin,
Aye.
Mr. Dorpino,
Aye.
Mr. Oster,
Aye.
Chairman Walsh.
Aye, resolution passes. Congratulations, Mr. Schutz. We look forward to the improvements over at Mohawk Commons. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. And like I said, I'll recuse myself, so I'm going to turn the floor over to Mr. Oster.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Walsh. Next up, we have Resolution 2021-36, lot line adjustment for 845 and 835 Pierce Road. The resolution being publicly available already. Just read the resolved that this planning board and zoning commission does hereby grant final lot line adjustment approval for 845 and 835 Pierce Road as shown on map entitled Lot Line Adjustment Map Lands Now, or formerly of Paul Sebesta, 835 and 845 Pierce Road as prepared by CT Mail Associates and dated September 9th with no subsequent revisions with the following condition. 1, the half plus minus or more, I guess that's plus or minus half acre portion of land to be conveyed to 835 Pierce Road shall be conveyed immediately and in such manner that it shall at no time be considered a freestanding parcel. Can I have a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
You have a second?
I second. Second.
Discussion? At first, Ms. Robertson, I mean, it looks like all the dimensions still match our zoning code. It doesn't change it, you know, there's no variances needed here, correct?
Correct. So the property is a little unique in that it's had a variety of variances over time, but this lot line adjustment, which is in the rear of the parcel, doesn't change any of the bulk zoning requirements. And Mo, you probably can't see him, but the applicant is here. If you want to call him to the podium, he'll come.
Okay. Yes, I mean, I guess I'm just curious to know, I mean, it looks like what they're trying to do is equalize sort of the size of the property. But if the applicant is here to give a little more background on it, because this is brand new.
Yeah, he's here.
Good evening. Equalize, I guess that's true. My original intention when I built the house in the back at 845 was to eventually downsize and reside there and make improvements to it. So that is really what.
Can you speak? I'm sorry. Can you speak up a little bit? It's a little foggy.
Is it on?
Am I on?
Can the applicant speak again? Yes. You have the floor to give some more background.
There, that's better.
Yep.
Can you hear me
Can
now?
you hear me better now?
I'm sorry. Okay, I'll start over. I originally built the smaller ranch at 845 with the intention of eventually moving into it and living there myself. So I left that lot, the larger lot, seeing that I like land and wanted to possibly farm it or do whatever. Now my plans have changed. I like where I am next door, and I want to balance the lot somewhat and keep more of it for myself, and eventually we'll be in the spring selling 845. I was thinking initially of making it even a smaller lot, cutting it off and retaining a piece in the back, but that was probably a bad idea, and Bruce Robertson convinced me of that and others. So this is just a 60-foot movement of about 0.5 acres to be able to enjoy that land for myself for my remaining years here. And if anyone's looking for a house in the spring, 845 is a nice house. Little plug.
It looks like a flag lot, but it looks like it's going to be a flag lot regardless.
It is a flag lot. It will always be a flag lot. Part of the other reason of making it 1.2 acres is it does have a quite sizable barn with it, and someone may want to farm that to a gentleman's type farm. There's a lot of land, 1.2 acres. It's a nice piece of property. It's very quiet and peaceful back there.
I'm sorry. Is there a house on the northern property on the northern property?
Where are you referring?
Sorry, I think that's 840. That's 845, which is the flag lot.
Yeah, there is a house. There's a ranch with a attached garage. Yep.
Okay.
It's indicated. Oh, you don't have the map, maybe.
It's right.
I'm looking at it. I just see I see dwelling with with one yes.
Yeah, it's a 1,200-foot ranch with a double car attached garage and a large barn.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Laura, I mean, this looks pretty pretty ordinary. Pretty complicated.
Yeah, lot line adjustments, we don't see a lot of them, but they're not technically subdivisions. And for a long time, people were actually recording them at the county without the planning board even looking at them. But about 5 years ago, the county said, planning board's got to sign these, which is good because now we're checking to make sure they're not making any zoning problems by the lot line adjustment. But the process we put in place is really the planning board or the planning department does the majority of the review to make sure that the zoning isn't being violated. And then the planning board just checks everything so that the chairman can sign the plat. Although I would think, Mo, in this case, probably you would sign the plat.
Okay.
Just, Mo, I just have one question for the applicant. I just want to make sure I'm looking at the survey. The applicant has 3 lots that he has title to. Is that right? And you're just modifying.
Yeah, that's correct. I originally owned the the house in the far right corner in the front, and there was 2.5 acres with it. So I built the first house in the front center for my parents to live in throughout their years, and then subsequently built the house in the back. So I still have, yes, those 3 houses.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, Mr. Henry, do you want to call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme,
Aye.
Mr. Scributennis,
Aye.
Mr. Khan, Mr. Khan? Aye. Mr. McPartlin?
Aye.
Mr. Darpino?
Aye.
Mr. Oster?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Oster. Appreciate that, and thank you, Ms. Gold. Okay, we're all done with new business, and next up is discussion items for tonight. First discussion item being 2147 Eastern Parkway. That's the mixed-use building, medical professional office and apartments, special use permit, and that's Mr. DiArpino.
Okay, so since the planning board has seen this project, Mr. Lisi has gone through zoning and I believe everything was passed and has updated the site plan. So in your packet, there is the site plan package drawings that are in there. A couple things to note and highlight, that the building lot did shift to the one side, so there is only one curb cut. Was able to maximize some more of the green space on the left-hand side or the western side of the building, and was able to take the circulation for the commercial use and the parking and centralize that to the front of the building. The dumpster is located on the back part of the property, and also there's a covered parking spaces which are situated behind the building for the tenants, which works out a little bit better with the site plan. So I think overall, generally, the site plan worked out really, really well. And there were some comments by the CACA, I think, on some tree plantings and some other items that are being worked into the drawing set that's here. So this set here that we have has those updates in it. And the other items that we are waiting for is for the elevations to be updated so that one comprehensive set is going to be used for the application that'll come into the building department. Let's see, the Architectural Review Board did review this project this past week. Again, it had the same comments before, basically get the roof lines together, select which ones of the elevations you're going to work with so that they can make one final review and pass at it. I don't know if Mr. Lisi's here, if he has any comments on anything else.
Just one small item. Rudy C. here, the applicant. We added some charging stations on this as well. There was an environmental, there was an issue, not an issue, but a recommendation that we provide some type of charging station. So I think we have two now on the right. You first drive in.
Yeah, their comment was they're looking for something green. I think they
Yes.
suggested solar, and then the compromise was a couple of EV charging stations,
Correct.
which,
That's correct. Yep.
so that's
Yep.
great.
Yep.
The only question I guess I have is, the open items that we got, like from the IRB, are you planning on trying to comply with some of those, or where do you stand with where do you think you stand with the ARB as far as, the suggestions that they had about recessing the center, adding a railing, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, we're going to start working on those. I didn't want to get to those till we got our special use permit
Okay.
From the town board. Then we released the engineer to do the site plan, which took about 3-4 weeks. So now we're at that point to bring this back as a site plan. I think it creates all the comments that you guys asked for.
Okay.
handicap spots. So now that this is acceptable, then we'll go back and finalize the architecture.
Yeah, I think the way we had left it before was we had some general elevations, and I know the floor plan wasn't resolved yet. So once that's resolved and you have the final floor plan, that will help generate where some of the windows are. And then the roof lines were sort of a separate issue. They had to be updated.
Right.
Because
We're
it looks
pretty
like
close on the roof line, though. I thought we were pretty close there, aren't we?
The front elevation
Front.
showed just a front gable.
Yep.
The sides had the hip on it.
Yep.
So bringing those together.
Yeah.
And then just marrying that up with whatever the floor plans are, so the window fenestration matches.
Correct.
And then how you feel you want to articulate either the front entrance with the gable or the flat
Or flat.
area.
Correct.
So,
I guess the other question I had was, looking at the new site plan, is you added the sidewalk to take you to the handicap spot. I don't know if we can zoom in on that or not. Over on the, I guess that would be the east side of the building,
Correct.
right? And that's, yeah, there it is. Is there any reason why that sidewalk shouldn't be extended all the way to the back? So if somebody's parking in the back and they need to come around the front door, they have a way to get there without having to walk through the parking lot?
We're trying to keep the privacy to the residents that are in the first floor. I'm sorry? I think so. I think we had that discussion. We were trying to keep the pedestrian access away from the tenant on the first floor corner.
Okay. So it's intentional just to
Correct.
separate the tenant access from the commercial.
Correct. That's a residential unit on the bottom right corner.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything I could, looking it over, is that it just kind of led me to, if, even if those parking spots along the side of the building there on the east, if you were to park in any of them, you got to get out of the car and you got to walk through the parking lot to pick up the sidewalk out front. I mean, that's your intention to do it
That was
that
our
way.
intention, correct.
But something just to consider,
Okay.
okay?
The only other thing I would add is that I think it's great that there's a sidewalk in front of the building. However, just so everyone's aware, on that side of the street, there is no sidewalk. And I noticed in the bottom right-hand corner, it says there's a concrete monument. And I noticed you've kind of moved the sidewalk down. I don't know if there's any plans with any other neighboring properties that might be interested in coming up with a sidewalk plan so that it can be somewhat contiguous. I think it's great you're adding it. It's just, unfortunately, you're landlocked and you don't connect to anything.
Right, and that parcel next door is for sale
Oh, yeah, so
on
it's,
the market. So Paul Banker selling.
oh, that's right, it's the Coldwell Banker.
It's the Paul Banker site, correct.
Yeah. But-
There's a monument there. There's a little sign or
Mhm.
stone.
Yeah, it looks like their property line extends a little bit more into the right of way than yours does.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
But the intent or hope would be like if 1760 Union Street came for site plan or tenant change with a new owner or something,
Right.
we'd be like, okay, now you got to build your part of the sidewalk. Same for the other one.
Yeah, are we to the point where town designate engineer, are we still waiting on for some more information?
I'm not sure. Clark, what did we decide on the town engineer on this? I think we don't have one yet.
But that's,
Correct.
Correct.
okay. We're getting close.
It's like very minimal, but
Yeah, there's not much here.
yeah, I think we asked the engineering department and we still need to get a TDE, but it's very minimal because it's a reuse and there, I think, less pavement than there was.
There's less.
Yeah,
Correct.
so it won't be a terrible TDE review, but we do need to get going on it.
All right. Anything else, Mr.
I
Lisi?
think that's good.
So then, we'll get that started, keep the submittals coming, and we're talking tonight about not having the next meeting was, I think it was November 22nd, so it would put us off till December 13th.
Yeah, we're not gonna make
Is that going to be okay for you?
No. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So
All right.
just to clarify, guys, do we want him to bring the elevations to us or do we want to do site plan approval and then have him work on the elevations of the architectural review board? Because there's probably not that much that's going to change between now and December if you wanted to call for.
I mean, I'm okay if, if you got enough information to start the TDE, and then if only the architectural review board is the only open item, I'm okay with conditioning that if the, project lead is okay.
For like a tentative, do you think it's ready for a tentative?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
That's fine with me, that's fine.
I mean, I guess the question would be if you're close enough on your floor plan that you could bring the whole package together, we could review it
Okay.
at that time.
Okay.
If you're still massaging the floor plan
Right.
to decide how big the residential units are going to be versus a commercial space, then I think as long as we don't see a significant change from the elevations that we saw, just
Right.
cleaning up those roof lines and just massaging that front facade, then I'm fine with having the ARB have the final review for those.
Because I think the floor plans, we can massage them to the point where we make sure the windows line up on the outside.
Right.
We want them. The interior design, that's going to take about a couple months, I would think. The
Okay.
architect's going to take a while to put that together for me.
Yeah, that's fine. But if you want to get started on site plan,
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think what we have here is good.
Okay.
Any concerns from any other planning board members? Comments? Okay, we'll have a tentative resolution for looks like probably the December 13th meeting, and we'll keep it moving forward. Okay? All right, next up, we have 1356 Balltown Road. That's a site plan application for 20 townhomes, 10 buildings at 1356 Balltown Road, of course, and Mr. Diopino again. And we have The representative of the applicant, Mr. Caponera, with us tonight.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board that are here and those that are here on Zoom. Again, for the record, Victor Caponera. And this would be our third appearance with me leading the boat as we travel through these waters. First of all, I'm glad to see that there's yoga mats in the back. I just noticed that. So I see that everyone's keeping healthy. And second of all, before we go in, I'm amazed to see that this town does not require subdivision approval for a minor lot line adjustment. I just saw that you undertook that. There's other municipalities that make you go through a full subdivision review on that, which is arduous to say the least. So kudos to the town. Anyway, sorry.
Thank you.
Just for the record, we were here last on September 27th, where we updated the planning board. Various members had comments and suggestions that Mr. Engels and myself and my client took into consideration and made changes. And the first time that I was here relative to this project was back on August 23rd. But just to backdrop real quickly, as we all know, this parcel is about 5.3 acres. There are homes on it that front on Balltown, Van Antwerp, and as the board is well aware, back in 2017, there was a pretty robust proposal in front of the board which called for 50 apartments and 6,000 square feet of commercial use. Since that time, this plan has substantially undergone a huge change. We feel for the better, far less intense, far less dense with the 20 proposed townhomes. As everyone knows, this property is zoned R2. And we all know what the surrounding properties are and what the surrounding zoning is. But suffice it to say that there is no zoning component in your code that deals specifically with townhomes. So what we look at here is an R2 zone, which is what this is zoned. Obviously, you have to look at the components and the requirements: 9,000 square foot minimum, 80 foot wide, 100 foot deep, 30% lot coverage. So taking that in consideration and looking at the comments that were made on 9/27/21, we set out to make quite a few changes to the plan. And the first thing you look at when you look up there is one of the comments that was made by one of the board members was, as you come in the proposed egress ingress on Van Antwerp, there was 4 buildings, if you recall. And I don't know if you can put that up, Laura. Can you put the old one up real quick?
That one? Yeah, that one.
Well, you can barely see
You
that.
can barely see it. Whoops.
I can do this, watch. There it is right there. But you can see the 4 buildings, and I can't remember which 4 buildings. There were concerns about this turn and how close the 2 buildings are. So if you look at the new, you go back to the one that we have in front of the board. Laura, thank you. You'll see what we did, and we basically changed out. Not all the buildings are the same. If you look at the footprints, they're not all the same. Some are a little bit different. But if you can see there, now there's just the 3 buildings. It's a bigger turning radius, and there's far more space. So that's one of the things we did. Some of the other comments that the board wanted to see was revised traffic analysis that came in on 10/6. Essentially what it did, it looked at the traffic count, not just the AM, PM, and it compared the single family, 17 single family, to the 20 townhomes proposed. Daily trips, 198 for the 17 single versus 135 for the proposed 20 townhomes. Obviously, going back to what I just said, well, that's Laura showing you what those trip counts are. That was from our traffic engineer. And one of the comments that I think you made, Mr. Chairman, was about the overflow parking. And we added that also on the plan. If you can bring that back up, Laura. So if you scroll in there, you can see the added overflow parking. I don't know if you can see that on the plan, but you'll see the overflow. I think there's 10. I'll just go over and show you. Right along here, there's overflow parking. And along here, there's overflow parking. Initially, that was proposed, but then there were some comments, and we took it out, then we put it back in because of the comments that were made. And again, I think it was you, Mr. Chairman, that made that comment. We extended the sidewalk along Van Antwerp to the driveway for the Van Antwerp apartments, in connection made to the CVS. We moved the northerly driveway access away from Amelia Road and our WRGB. You can see that on the plan. We added street trees per the CAC comments that they made when Mr. Engels was before that board. Obviously, the curb cuts are reduced to 2. We all know that with single-family residential, there'd be many more, and there's more there now as it exists. Even with the addition of the parking, the overflow parking, we still have retained a substantial amount of green space on this thing. It's closer to 30%, which is pretty significant. And we've also spaced out the townhomes. There were some comments about that. And you can see that the townhomes are spaced out. And that's noted in the fairly significant reduction in the amount of variances that we need. When we had discussed this back in August, we all knew that the 0 lot line between the buildings that are shown was pretty obvious, and that wasn't a real concern to the members. And one of the comments was to see what we could do to lessen any other setback side yard. And we prepared, when I say we, Mr. Engels prepared, with the help of your department, this chart which shows, and we've reduced the number of proposed variants substantially too. And mostly now the variances, in my humble opinion, are pretty de minimis. For instance, front side yard or front setback requires 30, 3 lots, 20.5, 20.5, 22.5. Likewise with the side yard setbacks, initially there were quite a few variances. Now there's only 2. And again, those are de minimis. You required 15. These are 10 feet on 2 lots, lots 10 and 11. And then the width of the lots is required to be 80. And you'll notice that most of these are requirements for variances, for area variances. That, and the same thing with the minimum 99,000 square foot. Most of these are pretty significant, or in my opinion, not that significant. And based on the changes that we made, we feel that this pretty much accommodates what the board was looking for in terms of their questions. We also were asked to look into whether or not the Van Antwerp apartments were willing to allow us to do a joint access, egress, ingress. My client's dad reached out to them and their answer was no. We don't have it in writing, but suffice it to say that it was inquired and they have no interest. I'm trying to look at some of the other comments. Obviously, no commercial, no apartments, single family. So essentially, we really completely changed this concept, or drastically changed it to accommodate what we feel are the needs that the board had, the neighbors' concerns. And we feel at this point that we're asking the board's consideration and making a recommendation, because as we all know, in order for this process to continue, we have to go to the zoning board and seek the area variances. But all things considered, I feel, and my clients feel, that this is a pretty attractive proposal compared to where we were 4 years ago, almost to the day. And that's basically what we're here for tonight, is hopefully to get a recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, well, thank you for the presentation, very thorough. And so the other board members know, between meetings, I had a phone conversation with Tim and Bob Miller to review specifically this site plan. All of these items that we talked about were covered. I think all of the moves are beneficial to the site plan. And this is a good example of a project that started out with a plan with a lot of variances and a lot of items that could go to zoning. And through working through some good suggestions, we're able to make some modifications to not only make a better site plan and keep some of the original design intent that was there, but also to reduce the amount of variances that are going to be requested to go in front of zoning. So I think that exercise over the last 3 months has been beneficial. It's met most of the criteria. I think that we've talked about, the overflow parking is nice. There might be a little too much, but again, that's something that's reversible in the future. If you notice that after 5-10 years or something, people are asking for more green space and less parking, or you notice that the types of families that are living in here, the people that are using it, are utilizing it, then it's good to have. So I think moving the units 19 and 20 up off of the road is actually better. It spaces things out. And the Architectural Review Board did like the plan also. They like the way the road configuration does cut through the lot and does make it somewhat of a deterrent as a cut through, although there will be those here and there at certain times of the day will probably utilize that. And they were eager to see what some of the elevations were. We did show them the original first pass elevations, and they seem to have pretty good feedback on that. So
One comment, I don't know if I mentioned it, but that we did add the emergency access onto the a pharmacy, as you can see down
Oh,
there.
correct, right.
lower end. That was added. And relative to the comments about the architectural elevations, that's a work in progress, and we're certainly willing to work with the board on that.
Mhm.
But at this stage, we just want to get to the next level, which is to the zoning board.
correct, and they're aware of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, but we did look at the project on Wednesday and came back with some good feedback. So
Okay, thank you, David. And I agree with your comments. One of the things for myself is I take a look at each of the units, just kind of see what makes sense from a variance standpoint, and deviation standpoint. And the one that jumped out at me that I really needed to focus on, I mean, if you take, buildings like 1-2 down near WRGB or down near CVS, I guess I can be a little bit less sensitive because they're near commercial properties, okay? When you get over to the new building that's relocated on the corner off of Van Antwerp to the interior, again, that backs up to Van Antwerp Apartments. So that helps, along Van Antwerp with only the 3 double units there. But the one that I focused on when I was looking through the variances was number 13, because number 13 is next to an existing single-family home, right? So you think, hey, we got one neighbor that does live there along Van Antwerp, so let me take a look at number 13 and see what kind of impact that would have to the neighbor, because it's kind of things we look for, right? And we take a look at the table of variances. Lot number 13 actually is one of the ones that is the most compliant. So I'm trying to give you some positive input here,
Yeah.
so which is good. If I saw, number 13 next to a single-family residence and it was like too close, or it was a worst-case scenario for deviations, I'd say, geez, that don't make sense. Shift the buildings a little bit. But looks like Mr. Ingalls took that into consideration, and that one is I guess pretty close to being fully compliant. Only at let's see.
It's just the width, that's
Yeah,
all.
just the width.
And the maximum,
It's
yep.
basically 10 feet each side or whatever. But it's it's the largest lot, 10,000 square feet. So there's a positive note there. So, and the coverage is at 21% when 30 is the maximum. So all positive. So I thought that was good. Of course, the one comment we didn't talk about, and I guess we need to at least bring it up, is I think you heard this from probably the Conservation Advisory Council and some of the discussions we had, and you may hear it again if and when you make it to the Zoning Board of Appeals, is the number of units. You know, again, single-family homes, it was it 17, right? So say you round it off to 18, you know, that's 9 units, works out pretty nice math-wise, and again, you got 10 units, so 20. Obviously, that's what you want to go with because that's what you came back to us, but we did have those comment also. So, and that's your prerogative, of course, you know. So that's where we stand. So that's you know, where I'm at. Again, I like the plan. I like the changes. You know, we still, you know, you still need to get through the ZBA, and once you get through the ZBA, there may be something that changes as a result of that action there. And as Dave mentioned with the overflow parking, you know, it's something we could look at because in the past we've also banked parking where we left a green space, and then if it was needed, you know, we had the capability of bringing it back in the future. So, but we don't need to go that far right now because we need to get you through the ZBA and see what happens there. So I'll open it to comments from the other members of the board. Anyone have any comments or questions for the applicant regarding the latest submittal?
This is Mike Skirby Tennis. Just a question for Laura Clark or Mr. Chairman. If the applicant were to come back with 18 units, is it right to assume that it would lessen the number of variances requested depending on the site plan?
But I'll let the applicant speak, but I think yes, depends on which building they were to take away, obviously. But, you know, again, we have the 0-foot variance. So, I mean, because of the way the code is. So there is, yes, it would be a decrease. I don't know how many.
Not
but
much.
not much.
I knew this question was going to come up tonight and discussed it with His Eminence, Mr. Engels today, who's right behind me hiding. And we looked at this and the change would be, I'll use this word, de minimis. It wouldn't significantly lessen the amount of variances. I didn't scrutinize this, or we didn't scrutinize to the point of exactly how few would be needed if we did that, but it wouldn't be much, I assure you.
Could you be more specific? Because your idea of de minimis and mine are different, and that may be true for other members as well,
Sure.
certainly for the public.
David, step forward, please.
Okay, Dave, put you on the spot.
No, not really. He lives for this.
Yeah.
So David, you recall we talked about this today, right?
Yes.
And we talked about if we knocked it down by 2, how many, you know, what would be the change in the number of variances? And
Sure.
Ms. Gold is.
Sure. We didn't actually lay out a new plan, of course, with a reduction of the 2 units. Offhand, you would reduce the common, the zero setback variance. And then we would reduce probably 2 or 3 other variances tops. So we're thinking a handful or a few, let's say three variances compared to the total that we have currently. So
You wouldn't
like-
reduce the 0 at all.
that
would stay the same.
we were going to eliminate, if we eliminated one, we would reduce that too.
Yeah, if you eliminate one building set, you eliminate one
Well,
0.
Right.
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 That's what I was saying. So we know you got one
Yeah.
at a minimum.
Yeah, so maybe another 1 or
Yeah.
2 is probably all we would do compared to the total that we have. We did have a substantial reduction since the last time we were in front of the board. We really put ourselves to test in terms of reducing them. So we reduced about 30 variances since the last time we were here, which is substantial. We've really spaced out the buildings on Van Antwerp, which I think is one of the key features of coming back with this plan and tucking the one building to the rear by Van Antwerp. And as you stated, lot 13, we did specifically look at our neighbor there to make that one of the biggest, most conforming lot. So to answer the question, there would be a very minor reduction of a couple variances if we went to a reduced density.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer the question?
I think so. Mr. Scrivby Tennis? Okay with that?
Yeah, I just have one follow-up question, Mr. Engels. He said that the last time you were here, were you referring to the multifamily housing rental program? Is that what you were referring as the comparison? Or
No,
was that
this,
another for sale?
this, as stated in the Clark's memo, this would be the comparison of the last time we were here in September, which we're calling revision 2 to this current revision 3
Okay,
that we're proposing tonight. So there was about a reduction of about, I think it actually calculated to be 29% is what's in the memo.
thank you.
Oops, the buildings got spaced farther apart. Most of the reduction was on the side setbacks of the buildings.
Correct.
But so there's an absolute reduction in variances from the September submittal to this submittal?
Yes, by about 30.
But there was also a reduction in open space because they flipped the 19 and 20 to the open space. So there was definitely a reduction of variances because the buildings got spaced apart farther, but the open space did get reduced.
We're about 1.1 currently. I think we're at 1.3.
Yeah.
So a
was-
slight decrease, yes.
So the number of variances that would be needed for the current plan are how many? That's a specific number, not a de minimis. That's a specific number.
For the current plan, I believe we're at 73. And we were over 100 at our last meeting.
That's still a lot of variances.
But again, the variances, as Mr. Caponera stated, are really related to the townhome concept and not having an R2 zone or another zone to specifically address the townhomes. We spoke of the average density, so we're kind of along that same line of the average density development.
But it's not an
So-
average density development.
So in terms of the majority of the variances, if you look at them, are width and area variances.
Which to
Which are
the,
internal to the subdivision itself. So in terms of the way the subdivision would appear to the neighbors, it would be in keeping with the current R2 zoning. We're not asking for, or I say we, the applicant is not asking for any variances relative to external sidelines. All of these variances are internal specifically to the subdivision.
but nonetheless, those play into the quality of life.
Pardon?
Nonetheless, those variances do play into the quality of life.
Yeah, to your point, for the zero common line, I mean, there's 20 of them, right? I mean, so if you were to, right, there's 20 of, you said 70 something, so there's 20 right
Yep.
there. Just a point of fact,
Yep, and again, lot 13, we did try, that's actually a conforming lot, as you stated, Mr. Chairman, with the exception of the width and the common sideline.
So there was a question at the Conservation Advisory Council that don't know that we discussed or how you guys would feel about it, or maybe it was actually Architectural Review Board, but because you have the emergency access to CVS, you may not actually need the curb cut to Balltown Road anymore. So we were wondering if you guys would consider, like if it would help with any of your variances to make a T or a cul-de-sac or something and not even have access to Balltown Road.
Yeah, I don't.
So since they have two, say you had Balltown and Van Antwerp, do you need the emergency access off of CVS?
that's the other way of flipping it, right?
You don't,
You don't.
actually. You don't.
You don't.
Although, like, I think it's good to have. And also, it'll be good for pedestrians because I think that probably the pedestrians will walk through the emergency access.
But to the future residents, not having that connection to Balltown is a problem.
I mean, I felt that way too, but it was a thought that you may not actually need it and you would potentially be able to reduce some more variances.
That's something that we're really not interested in eliminating. I think it's needed for this development.
And
We agree on that at least.
and the other comment was, which I think is just continually rhetoricing green, like green energy, green proposals, anything you can do to lessen the, the carbon footprint of new proposals, those kind of things.
What would you do?
We have added some street trees. We will be looking at green infrastructure practices associated with our stormwater. So we will be lessening any impacts through green practices for stormwater. Any other specific thoughts that the
I
board
mean,
has?
I don't build houses, so maybe David's better at this, but like Lou Lisi was just here and we had him put EV charging stations in the apartment, like maybe just fitting the garages to be able to have a type 2 plug for a charging station, something like that, just so that they're EV ready.
Well,
Normally we would say
yeah.
put an EV charging station in.
I think that the thing here is, if we're ready with the site plan, is to make the recommendation to the ZBA. Things might come out of the ZBA that might change this development, this proposal also, and then we can get into the details.
Then you would do the green
And
infrastructure.
get into those things.
Yeah.
I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves,
Yeah.
But
Like
Well,
the emergency, yeah, like the emergency access. If you have to have a third point of access, to me, it would make sense to try to come in off of the access road to WRGB because they don't park there. A lot of people park in CVS and they've got to go around two
Yeah.
turns. So if a fire truck has to get in there for whatever reason, Balltown's blocked or something, that's a much more difficult route to go in. If you don't need it, I would think that you could make a pedestrian connection point to the, to the parking lots, and people could walk over to CVS and eliminate it altogether.
I agree with that.
But again,
I support that idea too. And I also just wanted to mention, if we're considering specific lots that are most troublesome in evaluating the need for 20 townhomes instead of 18 units or 17 units, one of the lots, one of the buildings that I find most troublesome would be number 8. And I'd like to understand how the applicant intends to buffer between the CVS parking lot and this residence.
This be the last one on Balltown.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. McPartland. Yeah, it looks looks like there's a lot of greenery there, existing growth, but from the view that I have, but I don't know what it is or what the quality of it, but
Yeah, we would be willing to maintain as much of the existing vegetation for screening or augment that vegetation to provide privacy for the new home. Area-wise, we're not too far off, and coverage, we're not too far off the requirements. So I think with the addition of some maintenance and or addition of screening, I think we can accomplish that.
okay. Questions or comments? Anyone? Concerns? I think, we're at the point where if the applicant's saying this is what we want to go with, we're going to have to make some decisions here. And we won't be able to do that tonight, Mr. Capnera. What'll happen is the next meeting, Laura will put together a resolution that is specific to all the area variances or deviations that we have to make the recommendations on in our effect on the comprehensive plan, suitability for the area proposed, and whether or not we recommend that the ZBA grant or deny those variances. So that's where we'll be at. And also the planning department, I'm not sure, did you have an opportunity to validate all the variances yet, Laura or Clark?
I believe.
Yeah, yes, we have.
You
Clark
have.
went
So
through them.
the list that we got is the list then. Okay.
So Jengus, is there something that you wanted to ask? If we can't hear you, you can type a question. I see your hand up.
You could also call in too, right, Laura?
You can call in too.
How does he stand on his side like that? Well, pretty impressive, like a plank.
I've actually never seen that, and we've done a lot of Zoom meetings.
Might be his phone. But yeah, so that's where we're at. I mean, Mr. Khan might have a question there, but we're going to need to, as you probably heard me say earlier, we're looking at not having a meeting on, was it the 22nd? Yep. And so the next meeting would be December 13th. And so that would, I would assume that would be the meeting that we would need to take action.
Yeah.
And then that would be, I don't know, would that be in time for the ZBA schedule for January? Laura?
Well, yeah, I mean, the applicant would still have time to go to the December 15th meeting if they so chose. And the 13th is 2 days before the zoning board meeting, which we've done before. The only downside is it doesn't go in their packet, but I read the recommendation into the record anyway. So we could certainly do a recommendation on the 13th for the 15th, or they could choose to go to the zoning board in January. Kind of up to you guys.
You have preference?
We'd like to go.
Yeah, we'd like to try to do both.
December then, yeah.
Do
And
we give projects to zoning as a preview ever?
The closest thing we ever had with trying to, because here's the thing that happens with the zoning board, right? We work on a project for 3 months and they see it in one night. And it can be, hard to digest all of the things that we've discussed in a single night. But the closest thing we've ever done is for the Knots Landing.
Mhm.
And we actually had a meeting between the zoning and the planning board where they just asked questions. So they deferred action and asked questions, just very pointed questions on that project. But we don't, that's the only time we've ever
Right.
really discussed anything with them that I know of,
So that-
besides our referral process.
So that's a good reason for, going sooner than later, because if the zoning board gets overwhelmed or they ask for an adjournment or post, some questions come up that we missed or their insight, you could end up pushing it out to January anyway. So I think it's.
And we
prob-
see this happen too. They're the first public hearing. Like, we can't conduct a public hearing until the zoning board grants approvals, because right now it's currently essentially denied, right?
Right.
But they'll be the first public hearing, so they'll be the first mail out of the residents.
Are you the secretary to?
Zoning
ZBA
board,
too?
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Makes it a little more convenient.
So a lot of times it's the first time the public
Laura.
heard of it is at the zoning board meeting, not the planning board meeting, which can be hard.
Laura, I wanted to ask you a question about the WRGB access road that's opposite Almeria off Balltown. I know we asked the applicant before whether or not they explore the possibility of an easement to access the site from that side through that WRGB road. I was wondering if you or Clark had any knowledge of that parcel and whether or not there are any existing easements. If the landowner grants any easements to any of the other tenants or occupants of that whole office park, or whether or not even the town may have an easement.
I don't know offhand, but we can research it. I know the Complete Streets that's asked again for WRGB access.
That's a private
Yeah.
road going in there. And we're not aware of any of that. However, I can tell the board that I haven't done any title search on this, but and we all did reach out, I should say my clients did, and they had no interest in any connectivity.
So, we don't mind reaching out with you because maybe sometimes it's a little better. There's a big advantage to the WRGB connection. One, it would remove the road going between the two townhomes. So you'd be able to push 8 away from CVS a little bit. And then also it's even more of a deterrent to cut through traffic. And like the Complete Streets was saying is that you could kind of take that entrance and bend it a little and then make CVS's driveway come off of it. So they'd still have their own driveway.
Laura, with your incredible ability to persuade people, and you and I have worked together in the past. In fact, you're coming up on a project that I've been involved with too. We would be happy to see how your persuasive abilities and powers would work, but certainly we're happy to work with you.
Yeah, I think we should try one more time if we can. But, I mean, you can pursue the variances, at the same time.
Right.
And to just clarify for the public, there is no opportunity for them to comment on the concept itself before everything goes to the ZBA.
So they can always come to privilege of the floor.
Right.
And our agendas are posted, but people notice public hearings the most when they get a letter in the mail. And we can't do a formal public hearing until the application is complete. And the application can't be complete until it's gone through, because it's essentially denied by us. It's denied by us until it goes to the zoning board. So the zoning board has its own requirement for a public hearing. So the first time people get letters in the mail, which is when you usually get the most attention on a public hearing, which we've run into in the past, is the zoning board. And so people, a lot of times in this project, I don't know that it's specific, but a lot of times the zoning board will hear things like stormwater concerns, things like that. And like Patrick remembers, they have sort of a hard line where they're like, okay, well, that's site plan. Like, we're looking at the variances, but
Yeah.
it's hard for people to understand because it's the first time that they've ever come. They've been exposed to the project a lot. People in this neighborhood have been paying attention. I do think that there's been some
We have few
newspaper
comments,
articles
yes.
and stuff, and I know the applicants reached out. So, I mean, this isn't happening in the dark, but you'll still see more comments when you mail out things to people, which is you would get the mail out for this. If they choose December 15th, the mail out goes like December 5th,
Well, there have been times when we've done an informational meeting when we couldn't do a public hearing.
which you can do.
I don't know that there's any consensus for doing that on this. I just know that some people in public think that things are being pushed through
Yeah.
and they really aren't getting a fair chance to comment. So I want to go over the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can always come to the planning board meeting and speak under privilege of the floor or email. There's absolutely nothing that bars them from not commenting just because it's not a public hearing. But yeah.
And
I know, but
we've
they
had
don't all.
comments, as you all know, and there's been outreach to the community, so.
Well, it's been a
Yeah.
4-year project, so to comment that this possibly could be being pushed through, clearly, this is not the case here. My clients have gone through an exhaustive effort here financially to look at this project, to change it in an incredible way to the benefit, I think, of the surrounding properties in the neighborhood. And like you say, Mr. Chairman, there's been a lot of input, and they've even reached out to the neighbors and had meetings with them. So I can assure you that this is going through the full review process, and it's been painstakingly reviewed over and over and over again. So,
All right, I'll ask again from the board virtually. Anybody have any comments, anything they'd like to ask the applicant? Okay, so I think where we're at, I'll just refresh for myself, is that sounds like Ms. Laura will get together with the applicant, possibly have a phone call or a meeting. I think it's Sinclair Corporation or company to see if there's an opportunity there. Again, one more last time on the road, but in parallel, the planning board or planning office will put together the packet for the December 13th meeting for us to take action on a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals.
thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. And let's see where we at here. Okay, next up is 2837 Aqueduct Road. That's Rivers Ledge Senior Apartments. And we have Mr. Profunde represent and Mr. Steenberg here representing the applicant.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chuck Bafundi, head of real estate development with Louisi Companies, and I have Brett here, our civil lead as well. So we wanted to kind of get this presentation put together and do a soft introduction for phase 2 of Rivers Ledge Apartments, which was the senior building complex that is located in the front of the development on a separate piece of property in between the bike trail, Mohawk Hudson Bike Trail, and Aqueduct Road. As you can see up on the site plan, we originally during our first PUD had 2 buildings that spanned the entire front of the property. That has since been reduced when we were looking into the wetland credits and dealing with the investigation with Army Corps and what credits were available for purchase at that time and what our legal representation and our environmental engineers believe is approvable with Army Corps. So since that environmental investigation and purchasing the credits, the development was pretty much cut in half from what was originally proposed in the concept with phase one for the master build out. As you can see, that was reduced from a 100-unit complex to a 60-unit complex. We did still keep the retail, the commercial component in the front left corner, and a second retail pad site over off of Ledge Drive in the right-hand corner of the plan. We have 60 below-grade parking stalls. That would be in an underground parking garage. We have 64 surface parking spaces, which would add up to the required amount, 2 per apartment unit, 1 covered. We have over the state minimum for ADA. We went over the state minimum due to it being a senior housing complex. We still have the original parking lot on the left-hand side of Rivers Run Drive. We added a CDTA bus pull-off over near that parking area for both the complex of phase one and the new complex for the senior housing. And since our last meeting with you folks for the recreational building, we did add the sidewalk infrastructure that would connect phase two to phase one, crossing the bike trail and leading to the sidewalk connection near the recreational building. We added landscaping to the back of the complex, screening the bike trail through various comments and discussions that we have had. There's 360-degree access around the building per fire code. And I think that's capturing just about all of it. We will, as always, do EV parking installations like we do at all our complexes. And then I could go into the architecturals. We did some renderings and schematic designs. So this is a front elevation that would face the road. We kept a lot of the architectural finishes that we had in place in phase one with some of the veneer stones, hardy siding. We kept a more low-profile commercial look, but did add the gable corners to match the development on the inside and still give it the residential feel, but still bring home a mixed-use commercial mindset is what is kind of being proposed and was requested in the PUD with the corner retail. If you go to the next page, we meet the maximum building height at 35, under 35 feet, 30 foot 4, 8 inches. But where we violate that code is on the gabled roofs and the corners. That breaches it by about, I think it's 10 feet. That was so that we could still maintain the look of the rest of the development, but bring in that architecture. The reason of pushing for a 3-story building was just financially being able to make the development happen. So there's a cost to improving the property, and with the reduction in size that we're seeing here with Army Corps and the available wetland credits and the reduction in size of the amount of units and the density, we had to add that 3rd story to make a pro forma work, especially with the high cost of underground parking. And that's where we are right now. Now, going into the floor plans, which we can go through quickly. Underground parking starting in the garages. We have a maintenance storage area and the 60 parking stalls. We have lockers similar to some of our other complexes that we have in like Starbuck Island, where the residents can rent storage spaces, store their bicycles and other things that wouldn't normally fit in your apartment unit. We have a small lobby and storage, trash areas, stairs, trash all comes down through chaseways into the basement areas where it can be wheeled out by our maintenance staff. Coming into the first floor, we have the commercial area, which is about, right now, it was originally shown as half of the building. We reduced that on the site plan to the front quarter, with the mindset that we believe a 2,000 to 3,000 square foot retail spot would do better there than 4,600 square feet. What we were planning on doing in the back is still keeping a commercial mindset, but not have it for rent. We would like to do like a barber shop, hair salon for the seniors that live there, where we almost give it to a hairdresser for free, and she can at least cover the cost of discounted haircuts for the seniors that live there. And we would have a few other amenities in the back corner. You'd have a mail room, a leasing office, and then a central clubhouse in the back half, centered on centered on the corridor. Reason for a center clubhouse and these midway lobbies is for the length of time it would take to hit an elevator for seniors to make it to those midway points instead of having everything down on one far side of the building. We've had these comments come back from other facilities that we did that were senior housing facilities. Going into the second floor, we have, again, just more apartment units, pretty cut and dry. And then third floor, we have an outside terrace and 2 multi-purpose rooms. Multi-purpose rooms would be earmarked for like a library setting and small fitness area that be less, not like the fitness area that we're putting in at phase 1, but more like bikes, ellipticals, things that we've had reviews on that our seniors like more than free weights and things of that nature. And that's about the synopsis of where we are architecturally with like the conceptual floor plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with project leads, Mr. Khan or Mr. Laflamme, if they have any questions or comments.
No, this is Chris Laflamme. Charles, this looks very impressive. Thanks for the review. On the third floor, was it 18 units? Rentable space? Did I lose you guys?
17, sorry, I was just counting. 17 units on the third floor. And that was taking out the 2 center units for that outside terrace and the multi-purpose rooms.
Okay, gotcha. And the height variation or variance from the height that we've been impressing on our expectations, those, were they gable, like architectural lifts above the living space? That there's no, it's just a void.
Yeah,
in that interior?
It would be false attic space. That's correct.
And I'm just curious why you're presenting that to us over keeping under the 35.
So essentially, we could do a flat roof system, but I just know through talking with Laura and other discussions previously of keeping like a residential style building in the front to complement what was going on in phase 1. Now those can be removed and reduced down to that average building height of 34'8". But we did think it was a nice complement to phase 1 to have those gabled roof corners and center bump outs.
Okay, so it's strictly aesthetic, right?
It is. Yep.
Just, you're repeating that. The underground. I was trying to follow along with my version because it wasn't refreshing fast enough. But the underground parking, where is the entrances to those spaces?
Yeah. So essentially, on the site plan, we have the entrance that comes in off Rivers Run Drive, and traffic would come in through the front of the complex, in front of the retail and where all the parking is. You would come around to the bottom, grade would break down with 2 retaining walls, and you would have a garage entrance that has, we use security devices like gate arms and eyes that detect like a barcode on your windshield, and that would allow you into the underground parking garage.
Okay, gotcha. Would that access to the underground be visible from Aqueduct?
It would not. It would not. It would be lower than Aqueduct.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that alignment.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Laflamme?
Well, no, other than, can you just speak a little bit to the wetlands and how this new design complements or minimizes
Yeah. So
impact of wetlands?
So you can see in the base mapping, you have the dotted blobs of like outline that shows the wetland areas. So essentially when we designed phase one, that's what brought about the bridges that you see on like Ledge Drive off on the right near the commercial pad site. We span those wetlands and gave no impact to them. When we dug into phase two, you can see the right-hand side of that property is very heavy in wetlands where it takes up a majority of the property. And then it got more sporadic towards the left-hand side. When we had our environmental engineers and Brett here on the civil lead take a look at what credits were available in the wetland bank and what kind of disturbance we could work with, it was obviously more successful to work and develop the left-hand side of the complex because there was much less wetland. The right-hand side is, after further review, is much less developable and would be more apt to be forever wild there.
Gotcha. Oh, thanks, Chairman. I don't think I have any more questions myself. This is a good overview for us. It's
Okay,
been a
thank
few years since we looked at this.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if Mr. Khan is available. If not, we'll get comments in the future, I'm sure. How about anybody else right now? Any questions?
I
Mr.
was
Chairman,
just hoping we could get a little detail on the proposed commercial, the 3,000 square foot commercial building. What the intended use would be and a general description of that, what that elevation would look like, building height and so on.
Yeah, so essentially, I think that what we see is in any retail and a mixed use is something that would complement the development as another amenity. So like we kind of see maybe a small coffee shop, more boutique style coffee shop there, not a chain, or something that would support the development with the foot traffic and people walking around going there and eating or grabbing a cup of coffee on their way into work. We could do elevations, but a lot of that comes into especially a single user pad site. I'm sure it would change, right? So if the board would want me to run a rendering, I could just to, kind of for aesthetic purposes, but I'm sure with branding and stuff that there would be alterations later.
Okay, and there's no restrictions on that commercial? It isn't just residents only, it's open to the public? Is
It'd
that?
be open to the public as well, yes.
Single story.
I was just,
But-
the PUD requires commercial.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Yep. That, I think
That would be a single story building. It's commercial only, single story.
That's correct. Commercial only, single story, and right now forecasted to be single user.
But you also said that there's available space behind that, that you're thinking of something that's like the haircut place you mentioned, or a salon?
That is on the actual apartment building. So my architect showed it as the whole corner of that building, but as you can see, Brett reduced it down. We think that a 2,000 square foot space would be more rentable there and less impactful to the apartment complex. The other 3,000 square foot would be the single user. That's the standalone pad site, which is off Ledge Drive on the right-hand side.
Okay.
Of the building.
All right. And the height variance, I mean, we're looking at height variance. Obviously, you're looking for the variance because you want it to look good. Where are the mechanicals going to go? Is there anything on the rooftop?
It would be a flat rooftop, so the mechanicals would go up there, but would be hidden by our parapet.
So it wouldn't be visible is the plan.
They would not be visible.
Any sound baffling?
What's up?
Any sound baffling?
For the rooftop units?
Yeah.
We could look into that.
we probably want to look at the code review of the height, because I believe the way the code review is stated is it's at mean height for the building, and that's why we've kept that under the 35 feet for the mean height. We do have those higher protrusions, which I don't know that they would require a variance, because the mean height of the building, average height, is less.
Yeah,
than
it's
the
average
35
height to
feet.
grade, I believe, so you have to look at the grade and compare it
Right,
to the
it's,
building, right?
yeah, that's where all these,
Yeah.
these heights are to
Yeah.
grade.
But you also have to average in going in the underground.
Right, and that's actually not a very big area, because the way
It
it's
isn't,
designed-
right, and you only have one, because that's what Knott's ended up having to do, is go from 2 to 1 in order to get their average to
Yeah.
work.
So,
Yeah, the underground parking garages will be primarily, the only difference in height would be just that rough opening of the garage door, the way we design the retaining walls to kind of return in.
Mr. Diapino, do you have a comment?
Yeah, so it was leading into looking at the contours for the, I guess, with the ingress and egress of the parking garage. It looks like you'd have to have a series of retaining walls in
Yeah.
order to get in there. Okay, and you're not coming in at grade and ramping down into the garage, correct?
No, we would,
Okay.
we would be breaking grade with retaining walls on what would be the building side of that, where the boulder line work is.
Okay.
And then we would have some retaining wall work that would border the wetland area. But
Okay.
that would be more in a sense of breaking grade down
Okay.
to more of where the wetlands lie. This site will primarily be a decent sized fill at
Mhm.
that point.
Okay. So first, I guess this is the first view, obviously we all had the packet. There's some comments from the planning department. I don't know if you want to go over your thoughts, Laura. You're on the page 3 of the agenda statement, let's see.
So, I included the conditions from the original PUD, that you're supposed to preserve and protect the rural character of Aqueduct Road, because during the initial PUD, there was a lot of concern, because this building is front facing to Aqueduct Road, and Aqueduct Road there's some houses that are across the way, but generally speaking, like, at least, I don't know if it came from the CAC or from the planning board, felt like it was rural, and so they wanted the facades to keep in character and be very thoughtful to what was in the surrounding area, because this is going to be much more impactful to the homes that are across the street than the buildings. They wanted to make sure that any loss of wetlands was mitigated and reduced as much as possible, which I felt like this plan really did. You have to construct the public parking area between Aqueduct Road and the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail. I included some of the older plans in our packet. I don't know if you saw that. And the parking has been reduced. That's just kind of a fact. I actually think that it's still okay, but the public parking from the original PUD to now did get reduced. Yeah, you included the transit, or you mentioned it. I didn't actually see it on the plan, but that's a good thing.
Yep, it would be right in front of the parking. We did like a pull-off curb return.
Yeah.
They would end up pulling off the shoulder, having, a means of stop there, and then they would pull back out.
And then, which is great. I would love to see transit there. I will work with you guys to get CDTA to pay attention to us. And then the sidewalk, you're not showing the off-site sidewalk improvements yet.
Could you explain that? Me and Brett were looking at that, Laura, and I meant to call you on that prior to. We thought we did capture what you folks wanted at the last planning board meeting that we were at for the recreational building. But if we misunderstood it, that's why we could get some clarification on that.
I'm just seeing if I can show you on one of the plans that's here. Probably not. Not really. So the off-site sidewalk goes from, hold on. I have too many tabs open. Sorry. Okay, long night. The off-site sidewalk goes from like building 8 kind of area where the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail crosses Aqueduct, and it goes down to the Aqueduct Park. There's sidewalk that needs to happen so people can walk down to where the town owns the parking lot. You don't have to go past the boathouse, but down to like where the bathrooms are.
Oh, okay, so this would be off of our property.
Yeah, it's off-site. It's like from, you show it, let me just zoom in. You show it here. And actually, I think you show that for phase 1, but phase 2 would be from here down to the bathroom. It's not, you don't have to go in on the bathrooms, but down to that parking lot that goes over to the bathrooms.
Understood, okay.
Okay.
Easy.
And then my only other thought was, because the commercial space may end up serving the bike path more than people driving down Aqueduct Road, I'm wondering if you would actually want to switch it so that if you've got it on one half of the building, which I didn't think was a problem, switch it so that the half that it's facing is the bike path and put outdoor seating. I don't know how much higher that is. If your idea is for the standalone commercial to be like a coffee house with outdoor seating, then maybe you wouldn't necessarily need that. But I think originally the idea was that you would put like a coffee place or something in this building with outdoor seating that would draw people up and off the bike path.
Yeah, and which could still be done. I mean, Peter even brought up like an ice cream place or something.
Oh, yeah.
For the park and stuff, and both could really be done there with just, there's a decent sized landscape buffer between, which we always put in between the sidewalk and the front face of the building, which could be changed to patio block or something that would be able to, put tables, chairs, etc.
Yeah, outdoor seating here to draw in these buildings to the bike path, I think would be really key.
Yeah, plus it, obviously it was a benefit with COVID too, so who knows what the future holds. It's always nice to have it available,
Yeah, extra capacity.
Yep. Yep. Just outdoor.
And like the retail in the apartment probably lends itself better to outdoor seating than this guy, because the parking lot's kind of in the way between it and the bike path. But and I was just looking this. I had a question. Is the fire lane paved?
Yes. Yeah, we predominantly pave anything we can because of our background.
Oh, is it possible to not pave it so that you have more green space and do just grade that?
Grass block or.
Yeah, something, because
That's something we could look into.
otherwise you're circling it with pavement, and I know that you guys like to pave, but
Yeah, I can
Well-
we can look into that and see if there's a different means of.
because if it's not meant to be traveled, if that's not the main point of access for people
Does
to
that
get to the garage entrance.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can look into that.
Now, Laura, just point of clarification, you were thinking to move the commercial from the front corner to the what would be the northwest corner of the building, to try to draw that in.
To try and draw it in, although you probably want to look at visibility. It was just the thought I was having,
Right.
because I think that cars driving by aren't going to be like, oh, there's retail in that building. I think it's going to become more of a recreational destination as you're going up and down the bike path and using the park. And for the
Agreed.
people who are living in your
Yeah.
apartment complex. I'm not
And look at that.
I'm not stuck to either side. It was just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for coffee, right, you go to Stewart's, if you go either way, there's one everywhere, right? So,
I was thinking this area actually does lend itself to some outdoor seating, but back here it does get a little tight. That's why I was.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Which would
the
also
good
be
thing,
fine.
the good thing with front facing commercial is the advertisement and draw from the traveling public that would be driving by.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that when you go to vendors, you will probably find somebody who wants to do food here, because there isn't really truly like a food restaurant around. But
No, that would be great. And I agree with on the roadside, because we hear a lot from ShopRite Plaza, right? That you can't be seen, the stores in the internal. They always want larger signs because they can't be seen. So, when people know it's there, whether, they're in a car or on a bike, they know it's there. They'll get there somehow. Right?
Agreed.
So the big thing here is a reduction in units, obviously from 100 to 60. But in order to get 60, you've gone to 3 stories, so it's much higher building, right?
That's correct.
So I know that the Architectural Review Board, which is a great asset for the town and for this board, this is something if we could get an early look at, that would probably be beneficial. I mean, it's because you've already got kind of know what you want here, right? So some early feedback would be really beneficial, because you still got quite a bit of engineering, right, to do and everything.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so essentially that's how we would prefer, is to get some of those comments up front in the design build process. It'll be good to have that, because then essentially we're not wasting our time working in a direction that
Yep.
you folks wouldn't support. You know, Laura brought up the rural comment, and that was the comment that I was bringing up before with the gabled roofs, like not having a parapet flat roof style across the entirety of the building. We thought those accenting corners and those
Right.
bump outs and the gabled roof did bring some of that rural touch to it.
Yep.
We did go with the natural stone veneers and some of the facades that we went in with in the inside of the complex as well, to try to bring some of that residential rural look to the building, not
Right.
super modern.
And if the average ends up greater than the 35-foot, and we get some feedback from the Architectural Review Board that it makes sense because it's a better product, that's great. So we could, get them on the schedule. That'd be fantastic for the Architectural Review Board.
I have a question that's not all that relevant. Well, it's really not relevant to the planning board review, but the odds are somebody's going to ask me, so I'll ask you.
Okay.
Do you have a pet policy for the senior building yet?
We always have a pet policy, but it is just restricted by weight. So most of our residents do have pets. I believe the weight restriction is like 45 pounds or 50 pounds. Oh. Yeah, the weight is 45 to like 50 pounds, I believe, is our policy for pets.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I know seniors who won't go to an apartment if they can't bring their pets.
Yeah. No, we're pet friendly.
So if I understand this correctly, so the next action would be, get on the schedule for the Architectural Review Board, get some feedback, determine the average height, the mean height or whatever you want to call it, to see, if there is going to be a need for an area variance, right?
Yep, and I believe that's already been determined based on, the architects actually determined that when they,
Right.
the plans actually have labeled it mean height.
Is it?
So they
Okay.
actually have gone through.
And whoever, get the review for whoever we need to review that to make sure we agree.
Absolutely.
And, between those two things, and if area variance is not required, well, it's not required, but if it is required, then we got to make a recommendation if you want to go forward. But it'd be good to have the ARB feedback, make sure everybody's in sync before we go that far, right?
I agree.
Yeah, they normally show us the calcs, like if the entire front facade is 5, and then however long the entrance to the garage is, and then the back.
Mhm.
We see all those calculations.
Sure, we can provide that.
Any other questions or comments? Is that where we're at? Does that sound good, David? From the Architectural Review Board, Mr. Henry and Mr. DiArpino are our prime guys here in this meeting, at least.
Yeah, we meet once a month. If it's something that you wanted to send on, we can always send it out informally and get some feedback just through email.
Okay.
We haven't really tasked that yet with any project, but this is a bigger one. I guess as far as trying to keep a rural look to this, it's a 3-story building. There's they don't really go together. I think what ultimately we should do is we should design a nice building.
Yeah.
And we'll give you some input. And I think, there's some architectural features in the houses across the street and the rental units that are there that could probably be, worked into this design here. And it would probably be good if the ARB went to the job site to check out what you've done.
Yeah.
Because it is a significant change from what was there, to set eyes on it and then maybe come back. I think we meet in December. I have to look at when the next meeting is with Clark, but it's we just had one, so it would be later. But if we could maybe get that out in front and have the board members take a look at it, I think this one would be beneficial, because as a design build, you can make much more progress internally.
Yes.
As opposed to waiting a month for us to go and take a look at it. So this might be a good candidate to send out early as a standalone.
I agree. And any day you folks want to have them come down and take a look, we'll meet up with you and we can walk the buildings. And a lot of them are in different, they're progressed a lot since the last time some of the board had visited. So it'd be a good visit.
Good. Any tenants yet?
What was that?
Anybody living there yet?
No, not yet. We're aiming for December 15th cross our fingers. There's a few things that I have to get done on my end, and National Grid has to get done, and BBL, but we're getting there. We're very close.
Any other questions from board members, virtual board members for the applicant? No?
Sorry, Jengus has tried like 3 different ways to be able to connect to the meeting, and it just hasn't worked out. So he just sent me a text that he apologizes. He'll have to
Right. And if,
touch
and
base later.
if he can hear us, he can write his comments down and we can still pass them on to the board through email and to the applicant if he has anything specific to pass along or ask. Okay? As always, thank you, Mr. Khan, if you can hear us. All right. Anything else from you guys then?
I think the only thing that I missed too, which from a technical sense, just for the board to hear, is this phase of the development was factored into the water, sewer, and stormwater and traffic analysis, right? And with this reduction, all those engineering reports are still factual,
Yes.
and we're under those as well. Just
Yeah, the stormwater connections actually it's all been designed with the SWIP, so there's actually not a lot of engineering from my end, really just the pipe connections and the internal conveyance systems to get it to the stormwater system in the roadways. So
Great.
that is about it. That was the only thing I
No,
missed.
thank you. Appreciate that. All right. No, if there's no other questions or comments, and
I agree with everything you said, but you didn't pay the the connection fees for these units because we didn't know what they would look like or be. So
Okay.
that
There's
is in
future
there.
fees then.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, we won't miss that. Okay. Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
All right. If you have nothing else, then we'll be in touch and get some information out to ARB, and we'll keep it moving forward.
sounds good. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. All right, next we have 442 Balltown Road, with this is a new project, which is market 32, the directional signs. It's included in your packet there. And it looks like they already do have some pickup, but it looks like they're trying to improve their communication with some additional signage, some directional signage, and increasing the pickup signage. We don't have a project lead taking a look at what the planning department put together. Basically, it looks like we got 4 directional signs and a pickup sign. The pickup sign is going to require a couple of waivers. Looks like the height and the size, it's going to need, I think it's 1 square foot deviation there. And on the height, it's, let's see, it looks like it's quite a bit, right? So,
Yeah, 12 feet.
12 feet.
On the sign
Yep.
and another 18 inches, so 13.6.
Right, and the pictures or proposal, again, were included in the packet. And then for the directional signs, looks like there's 4 of them. There'd be a 2 square foot, 2 foot height waiver for those required. I was taking a look at it. I guess my opinion was it didn't seem to be too imposing what they were asking here. I did have an experience earlier this week. I went to the Walmart in Glenville to pick something up. My first time utilizing the pickup, and I tell you, I ended up parking the car and going inside until somebody could explain to me where I had to go. So, because their signage is pretty poor over there. They actually, it looks like they have signs that were plastic and somebody wrote a phone number on them is what they were. But now I understand, but the signs would have helped over there. So I don't know if any board has any concerns with the request here. I can open it for discussion.
I mean, just is it just that like 3 feet just won't be visible to the cars, that just to confirm that that's why they need the waiver?
This is Tom Lee from Price Chopper on the phone. That is correct. If we made them smaller, then the legibility of the information on the signs would be awfully small.
Yeah, and the height, I think, was the other concern, right?
Right. I mean,
Correct.
it just in terms of requesting the waiver, it certainly again, intuitively it makes sense. It's just want to get the confirmation that is actually sort of the reason for for the 3 feet versus the 4 feet. Or the
Right.
6 feet versus the whatever it's 4 feet for the actual parking sign, and then 6 feet for the directional sign.
It's
Yeah.
for the directional sign, they're 6 feet high.
Yeah.
So 4 is allowed, so it's a 2 foot waiver for the directional, so
For height.
All right.
right, for the height.
And then the pickup sign that's on the light pole is 1 foot too large.
right. And it's higher than,
And it's higher.
And it's
Yeah,
higher.
that one's double. It's higher and it's 1 foot too large. And for the record, it is internally lit, but I believe that Target's ones also glow. So this one glows.
yeah. And the thing is too, remember we have that along Balltown Road, there's that hill, the elevation change is
Correct.
pretty dramatic
Yeah,
there
you can see
with
that
the
here.
charging stations, when we had the discussion with the charging stations about, actually, I think you see the top of them or you see over them from Balltown. So again, my gut reaction looking over this submittal was that I didn't see any issues with it, but again, just my opinion.
Yeah, that it's so downhill from Balltown, it's not going to impact Balltown drivers at all. And it should improve the safety within the parking lot.
Yeah, and again, the directional signs, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a total of 4 for the directional signs at strategic locations. So, and there it is there. Yep. So I didn't think it was too many. It seemed reasonable.
The only thing Clark and I wanted to check is that I don't think that the B that's in the bottom, the label of B, it says right next to wayfinding scope of work.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's properly labeled because a B is a left turning sign. So you would be directing people to, you might just want to look at your plan.
Okay, so they got the wrong code for the sign that they need?
Yeah, not that that matters too much to us, but make sure you don't order off of this plan because I don't think it's right.
I was wondering about that.
There's a stop sign right there if you come in off of Balltown Road and make a left-hand turn towards Price Chopper.
Mhm.
So when you come to that stop sign, that sign would point you to go to the left,
Oh.
and B was a left-hand turn. And then you would go over towards Five Guys and come to the end of the parking lot and then need to make a right-hand turn.
Okay, so that is right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, right. And then if you missed that first sign and you continued heading towards Price Chopper, then you would come to the last island in front of the store. And again, you would be directed to make a left-hand turn to go in front of the store. The A that's to the right of that would be picking up people who come in from behind the Price Chopper store across the front of Marshall's, and it would point you straight ahead over to the grocery pickup. And the idea of the sign being at 12 feet high would be like a beacon that would be visible over the cart corrals that are placed throughout the parking lot, as well as some of the trees that are within the islands.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. All right, any other questions on this at all? So if everybody's comfortable, we need a resolution, right? So we'd have a resolution at the December 13th meeting. Is that okay with everybody and okay with the applicant?
Yes.
I just have a quick question. Is the plan to stick with 4 signs, generally speaking, or is there a bigger plan to expand for more pickup areas?
Well, if the pickup program continues to grow as it is, potentially we could expand the number of parking stalls. Yet there's probably enough time between pickups that right now it wouldn't warrant it. I know I provided some photographs of what we had done at 159 Bethlehem store, and in those photographs I depicted the LED beacon sign both during the day and at night. And one would see that we actually even painted the parking stalls green to further emphasize that's where our grocery pickup is. But I think with, where we are today with COVID and people doing more shopping online and then coming in and picking it up, there is some potential for growth.
Right, and if there was,
I'm
sorry,
go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go ahead. Thank you.
The reason why the grocery pickup parking is on the left-hand side of the parking lot is the far left-hand side of our store is where our grocery pickup teammates put orders together and then they bring them out to the customers. So that's why it's kind of over on the left-hand side.
Okay, thank you.
So was there going to be striping included in the parking space with this application?
No, there isn't. So what we're trying to find out is how well this will hold up. We just completed our 4th store where we've painted the parking stalls and labeled them as grocery pickup. We're interested in seeing how well it holds up through the winter snow plowing before we continue to make that kind of investment.
No, that sounds good. And if this gets through the board here, if you decide that you need more, obviously there'd be a site plan change. And you come back to the board with, an increased number of parking spots and signage, et cetera, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So I don't have a problem. If nobody else does, we can have a resolution for the December 13th meeting, granting updated site plan and the required waivers to allow this signage if everybody's okay with that. Okay. So I'm not hearing any no's, so we'll do that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. All right, and that's it for 442 Balltown Road. Last under discussion tonight is 2861 Troy Road, Brookdale Senior Living, and that's the storage pods. I believe it's 3 storage pods they have on site now, which are going to expire here on their approval that this planning board granted. It's going to expire on the 23rd of November, so it's coming up, and I believe they're looking for an extension to that, right, Laura? While they pursue a more permanent storage option. Do we have a representative tonight on the line at all? Or representative at all?
I don't see them.
Not seeing any. It's pretty straightforward. You take a look at the packet. The question I'd have is what do they need? They knew this has been coming for a year, obviously. So what do they need? What kind of an extension? And we won't be able to grant an extension unless we do it tonight with a show of hands, right? Because our next meeting isn't until December 13th.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to do a formal amendment to the resolution, but like if you guys give us general direction, we could hold off obviously on enforcement until the next meeting and action on the resolution.
Did they request a certain time period? Yep, I didn't see it, and I might have missed it in the paperwork.
Mark?
No, they haven't requested a specific time period, but they have talked about putting a very nice shed on the property that would actually be considerably less expensive for them than what they're currently paying for these storage pods. So I think they just have to get that through their corporate ownership. So I would think it's, a few months at the most.
And if they were to get the shed and they were to put it in the general vicinity of the pods, is that compliant from it's within the building envelope?
Mm-hmm.
It would just be an accessory structure, and as long as it obeys setbacks, would be okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, because now the 3 pods total 357 square feet of storage area, not volume, just square footage, footprint-wise, which is equivalent approximately to like a 20 by 18 garage, something along those lines, if they were to keep the same size. And that's an option, obviously. I think you can even get prefab garages that are built anywhere in that vicinity if that's what they're looking to do. But, it's up for them to decide what they want and to let us know what they're thinking there, right?
I don't mind giving them an extension, but I don't want to leave it open-ended.
Yeah, which is
Oh.
why we put the timeline in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think,
To at least get their plan into us within, 3 months. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, that seems to be
Yeah.
very important. Otherwise, the timeline slips. So
Yep.
I highly recommend doing that.
no, I agree.
And this is specifically for their PPE?
That's what's stated.
Yeah, okay. No, as I said, I don't know how much, because that's as much, there are requirements on them to have to maintain a certain minimum amount. And I don't know if hopefully get to a point where, that maybe the need may not be as much at a certain point. Maybe that might lessen it, but.
I feel like that was partly why we thought a year would be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to say, of course, we also thought a year ago that we wouldn't be having virtual meetings too.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I'll speak for the board. So it sounds like we're okay. We give them an extension. Obviously, they need an extension because they're not going to get there by the 23rd. So we give them extension, but with the condition that they submit what their plan within 3 months.
Like 3.
Does that sound reasonable? I mean, it's going to go quick, obviously, if we don't have a meeting. So
I think because that's good time, because then their plan would come in like March,
Yep.
which is good for finalizing so that you could
in
construct
spring they
there
could put it in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Is everybody okay with that? Okay, the planning department can reach out to the applicant and let them know where we're at, and we'll have a resolution stating that at the December 13th meeting. Any other comments? They get a pretty nice thing that we can make sure, it's in harmony with the existing building too. They should be able to do pretty good there.
I think it'll look nicer than the
It'll
pods.
look
They're kind
nicer.
of obvious.
Yep, exactly. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to reports for tonight, and I guess I'll just turn it over to Laura or Clark.
I emailed you guys the schedule because I realized I forgot to put it in the calendar. So sorry about that. I can bring it up quickly if you guys want to look at it, or if you just want to mull it over, we would potentially approve it at the December meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see, so, I think everybody's got it in their email now, so take a look at it and see if there's any conflicts with any holidays or religious holidays, and we can vote on it at the December 13th meeting, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, so we checked it for the religious holidays we normally check it for, and we did also put in the school holidays because that does also seem to sometimes cause problems for us. It makes it September, October, December are one meeting, but November I think looks okay because the week that Thanksgiving's on is not a week that the planning board meeting would fall on. So take a look at it, but I think it should be.
Great. Thank you.
Could I ask why we're canceling the November 22nd meeting?
I don't have staff for it.
Okay, that's a good reason.
Yeah, that's why, we talked to Laura about it. I think it might have been in somewhere I heard about it. That's why I was trying to make sure the applicants tonight, understood that, because it still shows on the calendar unless we have a concern where we need to have a meeting. But if nobody's here,
We could theoretically have moved it to the 29th, but if everybody was okay with it, we were better off just going to December.
let me ask the question. Does anybody know of any concerns with canceling the November, was it 22nd meeting? Anybody have any concerns with that? Do we need to do a show of hands or anything? Would that make you feel better? No? Okay. So it looks like we're okay. Canceling is easy. All right. So go ahead, Laura, with planning department updates.
So I don't have too much to report, really that changed since last time, but I think it'll be exciting for the architectural review board to walk around River's Ledge, but if a planning board member wants to go with them, it's really exciting when you go down there. It's, it's quite a huge thing. It's probably the biggest thing that we've planned in a long time. So if you're interested in going down there, let me know. I can tag you on.
Yeah, you should let us know because, at least the project leads and Mr. DiRapino, I know that Mr. Laflamme and Mr. Khan and myself have been there, but get an opportunity for them to attend again or somebody else that wants to join in.
Yeah.
If I'm available, I'd love to.
Okay. And I can just send it to the whole planning board. It's just when you guys are there in large numbers, you just have to refrain from discussing on anything you would vote. But I know you guys do that really well anyway. I think their original lease date was November. They've then now said December, but December is starting to come pretty close. But I actually think you'll see people living there, within the next couple of weeks.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's really close. It's getting really close.
And the flags are down.
The flags.
The flag signs.
Oh,
the
I'm
portable
not.
flag
Yes,
signs.
we did reach out to those guys. We said, please take them down. They said, what about a couple other properties that we're now working on? But those came down. Those guys are very close to letting their apartments as well. So.
Yeah, it looks good.
And I just have to say, I think that the work that we did on the facade of that building just made a huge difference. Because when I drive by, we pushed so hard for that, the stone and the colors and the everything that we did. And I think it looks really lovely. I mean, it's a big building, but for what we did, I think the planning board made a difference on that one, and we can be proud of
I think it looks good.
the
too.
things that we
Yep.
that we changed on that site.
Beautiful. Did you have anything else under reports, Laura,
Just
or
good
updates?
job, guys. You work really hard.
All right, next is COVID-19 updates.
Still in a holding pattern. I think Schenectady County is still generally in the same spot it was 3 or 4 months ago. So I think that the restrictions on the room are still going to be in effect for a while longer. So I would expect for this to continue. I think you guys can come in person if you need, but we do have the number of people in the room restriction. Tonight was okay. I was worried we were going to fill all the seats, but we had like 3 or so open. So we're doing good.
No, we did good. Had a little scurry there at the last minute, but everything came together as usual, so that was good. All right. And we already talked about the meeting calendar. So do you have anything else, Laura or Clark? Do you have anything? No? No? Let me just, because we've had a couple hours here, so I'll just open it up to anybody from the board. Any questions or anything they'd like to talk about from commission business?
I'm just curious, Laura and Clark, has the planning department heard any more positives or just any more feedback from the people across the river from River's Ledge?
I haven't received comments from since they came and talked to us. I can tell you we planted a whole lot of trees down there and there's still more to be planted. And I go down to that park kind of regularly. No, they haven't reached out since.
Okay.
I think and we also added more trees. So the tree council works with River's Ledge regularly on what they're planting. And they also added more trees to the actual on-site landscaping plan to help with landscaping of the parking lot and stuff like that. Those things have been added and the tree council is working on it. So the main things that we heard from them was the lighting, the landscaping, and the siding, and we couldn't change the siding. It had already been ordered, but we did reduce the size of the light poles from like 16 down to 12, which came in, and we did add a lot more landscaping.
Good, thank you. Any other questions for Laura or Clark? The only thing I'd like to mention, our commission business is training. You know, at the end of the year, we still got to do our 4 hours. If you get stuck, Department of State, New York State Department of State has some good training videos. That's what I did last year. I think I did most of them already, but I think I might be able to find enough to complete my training. And what's nice about it is you can print out the certificate, you know, to give to Laura and everything. And, you know, you don't need to do it all at once. You can do an hour here and there to get it done. So as far as in-person stuff, there hasn't been anything. I know that, Laura, we've gotten some emails. I'm assuming everybody gets those emails from
The webinars.
the different ones. You know.
They're all webinars, though. I haven't seen any in person. Even my building inspectors are still being trained by webinar.
Yeah.
I haven't had anything in several months.
So last year, the state put out a governor put out a thing that said the training requirements was waived.
Oh,
But
good.
this year,
Well, I did my 4 hours. That means I can roll that forward then, right?
yeah, you probably could. This year, I don't think they're waived. So I will send you guys links and things and see what I can find. The other thing we might be able to do that might be more, because I know some of you have taken that planning training, is I might be able to download some AICP courses that you guys could take, which might be not more interesting, but something different.
Yeah.
More
But
interesting.
the Department of State's pretty good. It's easy. It worked pretty well, you know, and there's some good ones there too.
There are. And they have updated them since they've added more.
Okay. And our rule is that you could bank them if you had excess. So
Correct.
Yeah, 1 year.
I don't
it is.
think I need them.
It's 1 year.
Yeah, I can look and send you guys out.
I don't think there was a limit.
Yeah, there was because
It's 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like I said, the state really did relax those requirements. Like last year, they were fully waived.
Yeah, I
But
didn't know
this
that.
year,
Huh.
I don't know that this year they're fully waived. So I'll get you guys.
No, it would be a good one I'd like to do. But if you attend another municipality's planning board meeting, would that count as training? Because that would be good to see, the difference in how the meetings go, the topics. But I don't know if that's an approved training or not.
So it's probably not approved, but the state does allow the town board to approve its own trainings. So if the town board feels that's beneficial, they can pass a resolution saying this training is going to count. So if that's something you guys are interested in doing, we could look at that. But, and I'm not downplaying any municipalities. I think that if we're going to do that, we should select some that we know are going by the rules, because every town's different. And
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, Clifton Park, Half Moon, they post
be
their
completely
agendas.
fine. Yes.
Rich Harris is
Bethlehem,
the
like,
planner.
there's a
He
lot
used
of
to
really
be the
good ones,
Town
yeah.
of Niskayuna planner. So it'd be interesting to see how they run their meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be a really cool use of time.
Road trip.
Road trip. Sounds good.
Laura,
Laura.
I just forwarded you an email too. I don't know if everybody else got it. There's one that's coming up this Saturday. It's a half-day training. It's online, of course, but it's a half day that I think it's 4 credits worth.
Okay.
That just came out today, right, Daisy? That email?
It came out in the last couple weeks, but I just forwarded it over now. I remember seeing it. I just had to search for it.
Thank you.
I'll send it out. I mean, I'm sure if it's a webinar, you can probably tag on if, you're interested. I got it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, Mr. Osser, thank you. Mr. Osser, motion to adjourn. I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr.
Second.
Diapino. All right. All right, we're adjourned. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing no one opposed, we're adjourned for the evening. Thank you very much. It was a good meeting. I appreciate it.
Good night.